Well, you can buy it, of course, on a cassette.
Yeah.
Just an ordinary household cassette like this.
That's just a perfectly ordinary domestic cassette.
We have a program in there, and we can put it into the machine.
Well, let's do it.
So you type load.
LOAD.
Well, we've got the symbol back here, and that shows the computer's waiting for you to do your next thing.
So that's in there.
That's it. So we can switch it
stop
off.
that. And presumably we can check, can we, that what was on there is in there now?
Happily, yes. All you have to do is to type out list, and it'll tell you what's in it.
List, L-I-S-T.
L-I-S-T. Return. As you.
Wow. Okay, that's
and
the
that is
program that was.
exactly what it's read in from that cassette.
Right. Right. Okay, well, we know it's in there. How do we play the game?
Just tell it to run.
Run. Nice, simple English words, I must say. And return, I suppose.
That's it. And you should be in the game. It works.
Right. War game. Move the bat. As a beginner. Press any key to serve. Right. Nice multicoloured game, that. I see. Yes, right. I think I get the picture.
I hope you're better at tennis than you are at this.
That one just started making a weird noise. Oh, there we go. There we go. Can we see that magic smoke? Smells like nostalgia. So I got two BBC Model Bs, and both of these did this after about 10-12 minutes of being switched on, and it is the power supply capacitors that go. So I just got to remove the 4 screws. As you can see, the size of them are quite enormous. They're like wood screws in this thing. So 2 in the bottom, 2 in the back, and then the cover comes off. The other thing with this particular one, I thought that someone had just desoldered the LED, but I just found out it's been bent over, where someone's had the case off previously, didn't bend it back up again, or didn't align the case properly. So the next one, to remove the keyboard, they've actually used a nut and bolt on this, so on the other side is a nut holding it on. Then just need to pull the ribbon cable either from the keyboard side or from the PCB side. Take that out of the way. Now I was just having a look here at the chips that I've got. So the View Store is a database program. View 3 is a word processing program. The other ones I'm not too sure. I guess one's going to be for disk operations and things like that. So now to remove the actual power supply itself, it's just 3 screws off the bottom. Nice and easy. And again, what's different with the BBC is, whereas a lot of them will just have the power supply going to one particular point on the board, this is going all over the place. So you can see this is all plus 5 volts and 0 volts, and then there's a purple lead which does the minus 5 volts. Now potentially, if you're not going to run a disk drive or something like that, you could probably just get away with using a 5 volt power supply on this. But I think by doing that, you do kind of cripple it a little bit if you're going to start using anything on the inputs or outputs or things like that, because you're not going to have the voltages there anymore to be able to use them. And you definitely will be able to use a dish without the full power supply. Want to see what board issue this is, and it looks like it's an issue 4 board. Again, as you can see, this is all over the place, these particular leads. So we'll just remove the power supply now. The The other thing that was good with the BBC back in the day was it did actually have a moulded plug. A lot of computers came without a plug on them. You had to supply your own plug and wire it in. But of course on this power supply now, I can't just disconnect the plug and pull it through. I've got to pull the plug through that little hole as well. And finally got to the end of the cable, and now I've just got to work this through. So this plug now, you wouldn't be able to buy a plug like this in the UK. It's usually got a little bit of insulation on the end of the plug there, on the live and neutral. There's the capacitor that's blowing, or definitely one of the capacitors that's blowing. Potentially there's 3 that generally go. There's that one there. There's this little one under here. And then finally there's this electrolytic capacitor there. And then they're usually the 3 that tend to go. Now, due to the age of it, should really change all the capacitors really, but I just want to see if this thing will get up and running again if I just change these ones. So right now power supply is obviously disconnected. Don't do this while it's plugged into the mains, otherwise things will get interesting quickly. So just got to remove the earth from the power supply chassis here. So again, it's another nut and bolt job. Just get that last washer out there, so put a shake-proof washer on there. And then we've got 3 screws that hold the printed circuit board down. So okay, just need to remove them. Fairly straightforward. Again, just using the tweezers to get some of them out. And again, them 3 screws usually have paint over them, or in this case it's clear lacquer they've got on them. So now we need to slide this printed circuit board out to actually get to the bottom of it. Just need to remove some of these cable ties to allow the board to move. So this cable tie here has got to come out. And again, to be able to remove the board, I need to remove this power switch as well. Now after doing a couple of these, the easiest way I found is to push down these tabs with a screwdriver, a flat-headed screwdriver, and you can only get to 3 of the 4 tabs, and the 4th tab usually just pulls through with it. You can sort of get it a little bit, but not enough really to be able to push it through. So as you can see, I've released the top 2 there. Now I'm just going to go that bottom one on this side, just so I've got enough pull on it, and yeah, it's come out nice and smooth. Sometimes what's really annoying is that last one will just kind of ruck up on you, and you just got to try and drag it through basically. It's very awkward. And again, these are on nice and tight, so I'm just using the screwdriver just to kind of lever them away from the switch body. And again, sometimes it's a case of just using the screwdriver to get them moving a bit, and then just give them a little wiggle at the end just to get them off. So with them out of the way, just put the switch to one side, and now we should be able to slide this board out. And I say slide this board out, it's not as, even now it's still not that straightforward. You've kind of got to put it at a bit of an angle and just slowly kind of wiggle it and work it out, because you've got another connection the other end there, which is for plugging in disk drive units and things that require the high voltage. And without removing that as well, because again that's another one that's a bit of a pain to get out, And really all I need to do is just get to the bottom of this board here, so hence the reason for cutting that cable tie, just to give me enough slack so I can get it out and just turn it upside down like it is now. And there we can see our other capacitor that we need to change. So we've got the large one there, which we can see is definitely blowing. That was what was causing all the smoke. To be fair, the small one doesn't look too bad, but while we got it open, we might as well change it. And the same for that electrolytic capacitor. We're not sure whether that's still working or not, so we've got all three. We might as well change them. So first thing is to remove these. So I'm just putting a little bit of flux on the solder wick. It kind of helps it travel up. So again, I'm just heating these up because obviously these haven't been warmed up for years, probably since the day of manufacture. So getting them 2 points there. Solder's travelling away nicely. I just want to try and remove as much solder as possible. And ideally enough so that the capacitor itself just drops on the base. Again, it's one of them things where if you get enough of it off, sometimes you can just kind of work backwards and forwards and just push it down. But in this particular occasion, it's dropped out nicely. And to be fair, that capacitor doesn't look too bad at all. I mean, I wouldn't use it again just due to its age, but yeah, it doesn't look like that's caused any problems. The one we're going for now is the one that's definitely caused the problem, this main big capacitor here. And again, if you notice on the printed circuit board, it seems to have two holes, so I wonder whether this particular component back in the day came in two different sizes, and depending on which one they had in stock, depending on what holes they used to solder it to the board. And get a new piece. I'm just going to put a little bit more of the flux on the solder wick again so it drains away nicely. You don't have to do that, but I just find it works so much better if you do. So this one's a little bit sticky, but it looks like it's loose. Just need to get something in there to be able to grab it, so I'm just using these pair of pliers here. Yeah, that's got it. And as you can see, it's bloated, it's blowing. That was definitely causing all the smoke. So that one 100% needs replacing. And then finally we've got our little electrolytic capacitor here that needs changing, and as you can see where they've soldered it, they've kind of bent leads over at the bottom, which is always a pain. So I've got to kind of remove the solder, try and straighten them pins up so it will actually come out. So right now just removing all this solder, and it's surprising how much solder is on this as well. There we go. Now the solder's removed, I can straighten that pin up. I just need to do the same with this one. Just using a pair of cutters to try and get underneath it, using the soldering iron as well just to keep it warm so I'm not lifting any tracks up as I'm trying to pull it. Like it's free now, so that's the capacitor. It does look a little bit bloated on the bottom, to be fair, so probably did need replacing this one. So here's our new capacitor, and again just got to make sure that the long leg goes to the positive, the short leg, and you can see on that gold label there it's marked with a negative. Just make sure you get it the right way around. On this board it is actually marked up as positive there, so yeah, just making sure that long leg is the one that goes through the positive. It's very easy to put these round the wrong way. The good thing is the other two capacitors, doesn't matter which way round you put them, so it's really down to personal choice which way you want the text to read. I've just got to apply a little bit of flux to the join here and then just solder them in place. So again, our next one, this is our little capacitor here. So if you look in my description, I've put down all the figures of these, and also I've found out the RS numbers for them as well. So if you've got an RS in your country, again you can order a pack of 5 of these for not much money. There's lots of people doing kits of them as well, and I suppose it depends on how many BBCs you need to repair. If you've got a few, because as I say, I've got this one and another one, so I just bought a pack of 5, and that way I've got spares in the future. So with this, I'm just using a pair of tweezers just to hold it into position, then just putting the solder nearby just so I can get one of the legs soldered. Then I'm just going to check underside here. So I'm just going to check here just to make sure that's in the right position, which it is. Solder the other leg and then just go back on that original leg just to make sure that's soldered properly. And then that's that one done. And now finally we got our big capacitor here. And let's see, I think this will go to 2 outer holes rather than the 2 inner holes. So we just poke that in, yeah, and that fits nicely like that. So again, I'm just holding it in the bottom with some tweezers so it doesn't drop out, and then just literally resting a bit of solder next to it. Some people like to put a bit of solder on the tip of their soldering iron and do it that way. It's either or really. It's either way works quite nicely as long as it's got it. So now just solder that into place properly. Go back to that original leg and just add a little bit more solder there again. Now the most important thing is just cut them pins down. And again, you can cut these down as you go along. I just like to do it at the end. So now it's a case of putting this printed circuit board back in, and again, I think I'm coming at too sharp an angle here, so I'm going to have to move that back over that way so it's a little bit more parallel with the cage that it's going into. But you can see the angle I'm putting it in at as well. Because again, it is very tight to get this printed circuit board in and out of this chassis. So there we go, that's moved across. And as it moves across, I can move it down a little bit and then just move it across again a bit more. And again, there is a little bit of flex in that chassis as well, so you can sort of, I mean, I wouldn't say pull it apart so it stays apart, but you can just kind of flex it a little bit just to get it past that hole where the main switch was. So now that's back in position, just making sure all the leads are free, not trapped anything. Screw it back down again with the 3 screws. So for this, putting these back on, it's easier to do when it's outside the chassis. And again, you can see the colours, which way they go. So the neutral goes with the black, the brown goes with the red live. And once we're happy with that, that just pushes back in again. And once that's pushed back in, you normally use a screwdriver just to flare them tabs again as well, just to make sure that's kind of holding quite nicely. So just got to put the earth on, and this is the way they do it. It's the screw through the shake-proof washer, then the 2 lugs, then the nut itself back on there. Then just got to feed all this cable back through again so I can get this back into place. Feed that plug through again as well. Make sure I'm not trapping any cables. Again, I could have put them cable ties back on there again, but there really is no need. Just got to make sure you're not trapping any cables while you're doing this up again. And again, my suggestion is you loosely put all 3 screws in first and then tighten them up. If you tighten up one and it's in the wrong position, then it makes it a bit awkward to get the rest. So first cable I'm putting in is this purple -5 volts, which goes in here. And then on the board itself, you can see it tells you what is your 0 volts and what is your, it's marked up VCC1, VCC2 and VCC3 for your positive 5 volts. So again, we'll just put them in place. And then the final 2, so as you can see, the first 2 connections there go kind of negative, positive. These ones go positive, negative on this last one. Again, it's marked up on the board, but just be mindful of that as well. And there we can see they're all back together again. Just making sure that I've actually got the crimps on there properly. Because it's got a sleeve on it, it's very easy to kind of, rather than push the crimp over, you're sliding it behind the crimp and you're not actually making a good connection. So that's the speaker back in. It can only go one way around. If you put it around the wrong way, the capacitor will stop it from going down to the bottom. Again, keyboard, very easy to put back on again with a ribbon. Just make sure you're not bending any pins over. And we just poke the screw through from the bottom, put our nut on the top, and that holds our keyboard in place. And then finally our case back on it again. Again, usually there's a little cage that holds that speaker, but that looks like it's been removed at some point. So again, this is just our 4 outer screws again, just putting them back on. Nice and easy. Now here I'm using a SCART lead for the RGB out. And with that SCART lead as well, it does have resistors in there. You can't just make one up without resistors. And as you can see, we've got a display again. Happy days. So now, because I haven't used this computer for a while, I'm just going to give it a little test. I've already tested the keyboard out, but I just thought I'd just do a little program. Obviously, you've got to do the classic 10 print, whatever, and then 20 go to 10. So here, I just wanted to see if it was the same as on the Commodore 64, where if you put that little semicolon in, does it go all the way across the screen? The moment of truth. Yes, it does. So now what I like with the BBC is you press break and you can type old list and it'll bring back your program. And then you've got a copy key on here as well. So rather than having to type it all out again, you can just copy any line or any bit of line that you've done. So now if I just copy that 20, go to 10. I used to think that was such a cool feature back in the day because not many computers had that. Hit run, and there we go. I will see you on the next one. So I've started a Patreon just to help with the cost of doing this channel, basically. Obviously, the more support I get, the bigger projects I can do. Any support will be greatly appreciated. Again, if you haven't got the funds, no problem. You know, it's just if you are able to and you enjoy my content, then please head over to Patreon and support me. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.